They say divorce is like a death without a funeral, but no one prepares you for what it feels like when the person you love the most takes a knife to your back and twists it slowly, smiling the whole time. My name is Marcus Thorne. I'm 42 years old. I live in a modest apartment above a coffee shop in downtown Chicago, and every morning I wake up to the smell of burnt espresso and the sting of regret. But 10 years ago, I was on top of the world. I had just sold out my third solo gallery show. Critics were calling me the next Basquiat with a soul, and my wife, Elena, was everything I thought I needed. Smart, stunning, supportive, or so I believed. We met at an art event in Brooklyn, back when I was still painting in a shared studio with cracked windows and no heat. She was an art curator, fresh out of Columbia, with a sharp eye for talent and a tongue that could cut glass. She believed in me before anyone else did. Helped me get my first exhibition. Helped me build a name. We were partners, in love, in life, in business, or at least that's what I thought. The cracks started small, a few offhand comments about how I should stop painting the same tortured black men. Subtle critiques wrapped in compliments. She'd start managing my gallery deals behind closed doors, always saying, "Let me handle the business, babe. You just create." And I did. I poured my soul into canvas after canvas, never questioning why the checks came late, why the numbers never matched, or why she kept all the paperwork at her office instead of our home. I was too in love, or maybe just too blind. Then came the divorce. Out of nowhere, Elena sat me down over dinner. Sushi, her favorite, not mine, and told me she wanted out. "We've grown apart," she said, sipping her wine like we were discussing weekend plans, not unraveling 8 years of marriage. I was stunned, speechless. I asked her if there was someone else. She didn't deny it. What followed was a legal bloodbath. She had a better lawyer, better records, better everything. I hadn't even realized how much I had signed over in our trust agreements. Apparently, I'd put more than half my collection in her name, paintings I bled for, pieces of me. She walked away with 32 of my originals. I walked away with a bottle of scotch, 2 boxes of clothes, and a studio lease I could barely afford. And then, the real knife came 3 years later. A friend texted me a headline from Art Daily. "Thorne's early works break records, 7 million per canvas at Sotheby's." My hands shook as I scrolled. Every piece listed, one of mine. Every seller, my ex-wife. She didn't just take my heart, she took my legacy and sold it to the highest bidder. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after seeing that headline. I kept going back to the article, reading every word like I'd missed something, like maybe they were talking about another Marcus Thorne. But no, it was me, my brushstrokes, my signature, my pain. She was selling them as if she created them, as if they were hers to begin with. I sat alone in my tiny studio, surrounded by unfinished canvases, wondering how I had been so goddamn stupid, how I had let her wrap herself around every inch of my life, only to walk off with the best parts of it. Back then, I wasn't painting much. I'd been in a slump since the divorce, hell, since before it. The creativity had drained out of me like blood from an open wound. And now, knowing she was out there cashing in on the art I'd created during our most intimate years, it was like watching someone rob your grave while you were still breathing. But here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't kill you all at once. It lingers, it festers, and it whispers. A week after the article dropped, I got a message from an old collector named Liam Prescott. We hadn't spoken in years, not since my second gallery show. He was a quiet guy, old money, respected in the art world. Said he wanted to grab coffee. "Something's been bugging me," he wrote. We met at a quiet spot in Lincoln Park. He looked older, slower, but still sharp. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were 2 photos, both of the same painting, Midnight Baptism. One was the original, hanging in my Brooklyn show in 2013. The other was from the Sotheby's auction last month. There was a difference, subtle, but clear if you knew what to look for. The signature. The original had a faint drip running through the M. It was unintentional, but distinct. The Sotheby's version? Clean as a whistle, a replica. "That's not the one I remember buying," Liam said. "I sold mine 2 years ago, to Elena." I just stared at him. "She said you were done with it, that you gave it to her. But Marcus, I spoke to the buyer at Sotheby's. She's listing them as original first sale pieces. And the provenance documents all trace back to her private collection, not yours. My stomach dropped. I left the coffee shop in a daze. That painting wasn't the only one she had taken. She'd made copies, high-end, expertly forged replicas of my early works, enough to fool even a trained eye. And now she was pushing them as originals. That night, I tore through my old files, emails, gallery records, anything that might tell me where my real pieces ended up. What I found was worse than I imagined. Pieces I thought were lost or stolen had been quietly sold through Elena's private accounts. Some had been shown in her exclusive Thorne archives at pop-up exhibits in Miami, Berlin, and Tokyo. She hadn't just sold them, she'd built a brand around them, me. A ghost version of me, curated, packaged, and presented without my knowledge, let alone my permission. My hands were shaking. I felt sick, but I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. Not without knowing the full extent of what she'd done. I needed more. I called in favors from old gallery friends, some of whom still owed me or hated her enough to talk. Bit by bit, a clearer picture formed. Elena had used our divorce settlement to lock in the rights to every piece we'd documented during the marriage. She'd quietly hired restoration artists, archivists, even signature analysts to back up her fake provenance trail. She was smart, ruthless, and careful. One name kept popping up: Raymond Cho, a private art authenticator with a reputation for being flexible, depending on who was paying. I called him, posed as a collector, asked about a few of my own paintings, pretending I was interested in buying them back. What he said chilled me to the bone. "Oh yeah," he said casually. "Elena's collection, all verified. I've signed off on over 20 pieces. Original works," she said, "with your blessing. Sad you stopped painting after the divorce. Your early work is timeless." He laughed. I didn't. When I hung up, I sat in silence. She had rewritten my story, taken the brush from my hand and redrawn the lines without me. And the world, they were eating it up. She was the widow of my talent, dressed in stolen light, selling my soul one canvas at a time. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not anymore. I didn't know how yet. But I knew this. If she thought I was just another tragic artist buried in his past, she was about to see what resurrection looked like. I wasn't sleeping much, not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Elena, standing in front of Crucible, one of my most vulnerable pieces, smiling next to some billionaire collector, pretending she had any idea what it meant, pretending she had felt what I felt when I painted it during my lowest point. And that's what finally pushed me over the edge. I wasn't going to be just another artist chewed up by the industry, pitied in a documentary 10 years too late. I had to fight back, not with fists, with facts, truth, strategy, and I had to be smarter than she ever imagined I could be. The first thing I did was dig into our old shared Google Drive. She never revoked access, probably didn't even remember it existed. It had been a relic of our earlier days, back when we collaborated on gallery submissions and invoices like we were Bonnie and Clyde with a paintbrush. I scoured through folders labeled 2020 tax docs, inventory, gallery contacts, and then jackpot, a folder titled Paris Exhibit, Private Buyers. Inside were detailed spreadsheets, real names, fake names, wire transfer receipts. Some of the paintings listed were still supposedly in her collection according to public databases, yet here they were, sold 3-4 years ago under aliases I didn't recognize. I cross-referenced the banking info and routed them through a friend at my old gallery in Berlin. He owed me a favor after I saved his debut show from a fire code violation. He confirmed it. The funds went to offshore, accounts not under Elena's name, but under Ava Morelli, an alias, but one I recognized. Ava Morelli was a name Elena used once when she didn't want anyone to know she was buying a rival artist's work. She even joked about it, said it made her feel like a spy. It wasn't a joke anymore. Now I had a trail. I made copies of everything, spreadsheets, transfers, private messages between her and galleries. One particularly damning message had her telling a curator in Vienna, Marcus never really cared about archiving. He let me handle the details. These works are mine now. He knew that. No, Elena, I didn't know that, and I sure as hell didn't agree to it. The anger boiled in my chest, but I kept my cool. I wasn't going to blow this with a rage-fueled confrontation. I needed a plan. Next, I contacted an old friend, Naima. She was a lawyer now, working in intellectual property law. We hadn't spoken in years, not since the night I drunkenly kissed her during one of Elena's exhibitions. She never mentioned it again. She'd always been kind, level-headed, and scarily competent. I told her everything, showed her the receipts, the messages, the inconsistencies in the auction listings. She didn't say much at first, just stared at me over the rim of her glasses, scanning the documents. Then she said the words I'd been desperate to hear. "You've got something here. Actually, you've got a lot. And if we play it right, we can blow this wide open." But she also warned me. Elena's smart and slippery. If she catches wind of this before we're ready, she'll vanish everything. Money, artwork, paper trail. We only get one shot at this. So, we started building the case in silence. Naima brought in a forensic accountant. I hired a private investigator, the kind who doesn't advertise online and prefers to be paid in cash. Within 2 weeks, we had traced over $18 million in unreported art sales tied directly to Elena's alias accounts. The name Ava Morelli showed up again and again, sometimes as buyer, sometimes as seller. We even found a fake foundation she created to move pieces internationally under the guise of cultural preservation. But the crown jewel of it all? A recorded phone call. My investigator posed as an interested collector from Dubai, looking to buy one of my earliest pieces, Ashes of August. He told her he wanted a direct provenance trail, artist-signed documents, personal verification. And Elena, arrogant as ever, said the one thing she should have never said. "Oh, Marcus? He doesn't even know this piece is being sold. It's been mine since the beginning. I just never filed it officially." She laughed. "He recorded it. And that recording? That was our bullet. I remember the night Naima and I sat in my studio, listening to it on loop. The rain was hitting the windows like a metronome, and for the first time in years, I felt something crack open in me. Not anger, not sadness. Power. It was strange. How clarity can bring peace. I wasn't the broken man she thought she left behind. I wasn't the insecure artist begging for attention or validation. I was awake now. I looked at Naima, who gave me a quiet nod. "Time to take her down," she said. But not with shouting, not with chaos, with precision. I started prepping my statement for the art world, quietly reaching out to journalists who had once praised my work, hinting that something big was coming. I even dug out 3 of my unsold originals and began painting again. New work, raw, blisteringly honest. Because this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about reclaiming my name, my art, my voice. Elena took everything she thought made me who I was. But she forgot one thing. I made all of it with my hands. And now, I was ready to take it all back. The gallery was packed, bright lights, white walls, the sound of champagne glasses clinking, and the hum of polite, pretentious conversation. All the usual suspects were there. Critics, collectors, influencers, people who didn't know art but knew money. At the center of it all was Elena. She stood in front of Ashes of August, draped in a red silk dress that screamed power, charm, and carefully curated deception. I watched her from the far end of the room, behind a pair of tinted glasses and a hat pulled low. No one recognized me, not yet. She was giving a speech, one hand elegantly holding her wine glass, the other gesturing toward the canvas. "This piece," she said, "represents the chaos of rebirth. It's one of Marcus's most haunting works, created during our final summer together. I remember when he finished it, he cried. He told me, 'It's yours now. Do what you want with it.' So I did." The crowd chuckled politely. Some nodded with faux sentiment, some clapped. She smiled. And that's when I stepped forward, slowly, calmly. I walked straight through the crowd, right up to the painting, and stood beside her. Her face changed the moment she saw me. The color drained. The smile froze. Her eyes flicked left and right, like she was searching for an exit. "Elena," I said, loudly enough for the nearest guest to hear. "You mind if I say a few words?" She didn't respond, so I kept talking. This painting, I said, pointing at Ashes of August, was never given to her, not in writing, not in spirit. I painted this alone in a basement studio after she told me she was sleeping with someone else. I didn't cry when I finished it. I almost burned it. The room went silent. Someone whispered my name. Marcus Thorne? I nodded, removed my hat. I'm not here to reclaim the past, I continued, voice steady. I'm here to reclaim the truth. Naima stepped forward from the crowd. She looked flawless, professional, holding a sleek leather case. She opened it and handed me the folder. I pulled out a single document. This, I said, is a copy of the original, provenance file for Ashes of August. It clearly states that the painting remained in my possession until it was stolen, sold without my consent, under the false signature of Ava Morelli. You know, Elena's little alter ego. Gasps, murmurs. Elena took a step forward, trying to regain control. This is absurd. No, it's criminal, I cut in. And there's more. Naima handed a USB drive to a nearby gallery assistant. Play the file, she said. The projector flickered on, and suddenly the room was filled with Elena's voice, recorded from the phone call, clear as day. Oh, Marcus? He doesn't even know this piece is being sold. It's been mine since the beginning. I just never filed it officially. Laughter, arrogance. When the clip ended, the silence was deafening. Elena's face had gone pale. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. From the back of the room, Liam Prescott, the collector, stepped forward. I sold you that painting, Elena. You said Marcus gifted it to you. I want my money back. Another voice. I bought Midnight Baptism for $1.2 million. Are you telling me it's a fake? The energy shifted. The vultures who once praised her were now circling her. She looked at me, eyes wild, voice shaking. You can't prove I forged anything. I stepped closer. But I can prove you lied, sold pieces you never owned, created fake trails, used forged documents, and violated at least 3 international art laws. Naima has already filed preliminary complaints with 2 federal agencies. By tomorrow morning, you'll be served. You don't want to do this, she said quietly now. It'll ruin us both. I leaned in. You already ruined me. I'm just making it official. She turned and stormed out of the gallery. I didn't follow. Instead, I turned to the crowd, many of whom were still staring at me, some with admiration, some with guilt, some with shame. This, I said, gesturing to the painting, was born out of betrayal, but it's still mine. Every brushstroke, every drop of paint, every memory. I took out a marker, walked right up to the canvas, and signed it, bold and new, right beneath the original faded signature. The room erupted into flashbulbs. That moment, it wasn't just vindication, it was resurrection. Later that night, Naima and I sat outside the gallery. The chaos was still buzzing inside, but I was calm. You did it, she said. I nodded. We did. Elena will fight this, she warned. She'll deny, file countersuits, try to drag it out. I know, I said, lighting a cigarette with hands that finally felt steady. But she's already lost the one thing she can't fake. Naima raised an eyebrow. What's that? The truth. I exhaled slowly. For the first time in years, I have it back. The fallout came fast, faster than I expected. Within 72 hours, 3 major art publications ran exposés on Elena's fraudulent sales. The New York Times called it the greatest art deception since Knoedler. And my name, Marcus Thorne, was suddenly everywhere again. But this time, it wasn't attached to whispers of decline or artistic silence. It was linked to justice, to survival, to a man who had taken his identity back. Elena's world crumbled overnight. Private collectors demanded refunds, galleries severed ties. Her planned exhibition in Barcelona was canceled before the crates even left customs. One by one, her accounts were frozen as legal investigations began rolling in. By the end of the week, she released a shaky video statement online, blaming misunderstandings and bad advice. But no one bought it, not this time. My phone lit up with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Old mentors, former critics, even rivals who once mocked me. They offered support, congratulations, invitations to speak, to paint, to reclaim my space in the art world. Some wanted to collaborate, others just wanted to apologize for looking the other way, while she stole from me in plain sight. It felt good, but it didn't fix everything. I still had to deal with the knowledge that the person I once trusted with my heart and my art had used both like weapons. There were days I woke up angry, and nights I still dreamed of her, the version of her I loved, not the one I exposed. Closure doesn't come with a headline. It comes slowly, painfully, in quiet moments. Like the day I walked into my old Brooklyn studio, untouched since the divorce. The dust was thick, the windows fogged with time, but the light, God, the light, still hit the walls the same way. I stood there for a long time, just breathing it in. And then I started painting again. Not for critics, not for collectors, for me. One brush stroke at a time, I painted through the rage, the grief, the betrayal. Each canvas bled with truth, stripped bare of performance. I didn't care who saw it. It was mine. Naima visited often, sometimes to go over the legal progress, sometimes just to sit beside me in silence. She was my anchor through it all, steady, brilliant, unflinching. Elena was facing multiple lawsuits now, both civil and criminal, and while I didn't know what the final verdict would be, I knew this much. She'd never again profit off my pain. And me? I was no longer defined by what I'd lost. I was becoming something new, not a victim, not even just a survivor, but an artist who reclaimed the truth with his own hands and turned his scars into a signature no one could steal. It's been almost a year since that night at the gallery. A lot has changed. I'm back in my own studio again, this time in a renovated space just outside Chicago, tucked inside an old warehouse with high ceilings and north-facing windows. The kind of place I always dreamed about, but never let myself have. The light here is perfect, quiet, steady. And for the first time in years, so am I. I paint every day now, not because I'm chasing sales or chasing relevance, but because the silence between brushstrokes has become sacred to me. My work has shifted too. Less chaos, more restraint. There's still pain in it, but it's not the screaming kind. It's reflective, raw, honest in a way I used to be too afraid to reach for. People say they can feel the difference, and maybe that's the greatest thing I've gained, myself. I didn't realize how much of me I had given away in that relationship. Not just control, not just my art, but my voice, my instincts, my sense of who I was beyond someone else's shadow. Elena was a master of manipulation, but I have to take responsibility too, for ignoring the signs, for letting love blind me to theft wrapped in affection. Now, I don't flinch at the past. I study it. I learn from it. And I use it to fuel a future that belongs to me and no one else. Naima and I, we've grown closer than I ever expected. What started as an old friend stepping in to help slowly turned into something deeper. She doesn't try to manage me, doesn't fix me. She just sees me. And after years of being molded and marketed, being seen, truly seen, is the most powerful thing I've ever felt. We're not rushing anything. We go on long walks, argue about movies, read each other's drafts. She still pushes me like no one else, but it's different now. Healthier, real. Legally, we're still in it. Elena's trial is ongoing and the case has expanded internationally, but the weight of it doesn't crush me anymore. Naima handles the fire and I focus on my work, on building new things, paintings, relationships, a legacy that's mine alone. Last month, I held my first solo exhibition in 5 years. It was called Resurrected. Every canvas told a piece of the story, of love, betrayal, survival, and truth. Critics called it Thorne's most intimate and evolved collection yet. One piece, Inheritance of Silence, was purchased by the Smithsonian. I cried when they hung it, not because of the money or the recognition, but because the journey back to myself had finally come full circle. I'm not trying to erase what happened. I'm choosing to grow from it, because pain doesn't go away when you ignore it. It doesn't disappear when someone else profits from it. It only changes when you face it, feel it, and turn it into something that outlives the person who caused it. I used to believe Elena stole my legacy. Now I know better. She only stole what I gave her access to. And the real legacy? That's what I'm building now. One painting, one truth, one breath at a time. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. What you create with your soul cannot be taken. Not really. People can steal the physical form of it. They can frame it, forge it, sell it. But the truth behind that creation, the pain, the fire, the love, it stays with the one who lived it. And no one can counterfeit that. I spent years thinking I'd lost everything, my art, my marriage, my future. But what I had really lost was faith in myself. I let someone else become the gatekeeper to my worth. And that's the most dangerous kind of betrayal, the one where you stop trusting your own instincts because someone you love tells you they know better. But survival isn't just about getting through it. It's about rising with clarity, with purpose. It's about standing in the ashes of who you were and deciding to rebuild with stronger hands. Justice? It's not always dramatic. It's not always clean. Sometimes it's just choosing to wake up, speak the truth, and stop letting the past define you. I look back now, and I don't see a victim. I see a man who bled, who broke, and who stood back up, covered in scars but clearer than ever. I see a man who learned the difference between silence and peace, between love and control, between being admired and being respected. So, if you're listening to this, if you've ever had someone steal from you, not just money or things, but your voice, your worth, your identity, I want you to remember this. You are not what they did to you. You are what you choose to become after. Because the real masterpiece, it isn't the canvas they took from you. It's the courage it takes to create again, knowing full well how much it costs. That's where your power lives. And that's something no one can ever steal.